All right, and we're live. Hey, welcome back to the Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast. Hey, maybe you're brand new here, but let me tell you, and maybe not, but something that you probably don't know, but you might know. Hey, Costa Rica is world famous, okay? World famous for its lush rainforest, clean air, and its reputation as a model for sustainable living. That's the reason so many people come. But lately, many residents and travelers have started noticing something strange. Long white trails crisscrossing the sky, even deep in the mountains where I'm at. Now, are these simply jet contrails, or is it something more? Well, on today's Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast, we're going to dive into this topic and talk about whether this is all conspiracy theory, or is this something that you need to be aware of or concerned about? Hey, we're going to explore how Costa Rica built its eco-green reputation, the difference between what's a contrail and a chemtrail. What are some of the people, including me, witnessing the last few months? What are some possible environmental and health concerns? And what are some things that you need to do to protect yourself or just be aware? Hey, this isn't about fear mongering. It's about curiosity, truth, and always giving you the whole truth about life in Costa Rica. Because we're the only channel not trying to sell you Costa Rica so you can buy more of my products and services. Hey, by the way, if you're brand new here, did you know that we help people move to Costa Rica? That's right. We've conned hundreds of people to come to Costa Rica, and we're now doing it in Panama. Oh, did I say con? We help people move. No, we don't do that. But be careful if you need someone. All right. Be very careful. On this channel, we love to give you the whole truth and nothing but the truth when it comes to talking about Costa Rica. So today we're just going to have a whole lot of fun and talk about what has been happening, okay? So, hey, first off, welcome. All the folks that are here. Got Esquire, Eduardo, Evelyn, hey, I'm enjoying being back. And, hey, maybe a little later, we'll talk about why I've been gone. But most importantly, hey, be engaging. Hey, throw a comment up there. Where in the world are you watching from, right? And, be sure to ask any questions. And as always, we're going to try to answer all of your questions. So let's just dive right into it, okay? So, there's how many times have you looked up into the sky when you was a kid or wherever in the world you are? And I'd like to know this, okay? So if you looked up into a sky and you saw a plane flying across the sky and you saw this long, long, long trail. Now, I remember being a kid and looking up there and seeing these planes and these trails. And then it's like the trail just got wider and wider and wider and wider. And, it wasn't uncommon to see these trails going crisscrossing, okay? I was a kid. I didn't know what it was. I thought, hey, look, it's like tracks. It's plane tracks, right? Train tracks. That's all. I thought it was just tracks. And, as I got older and I started doing a little bit of research or just hearing other people, well, there's this whole thought that those are called chemtrails. And I'm like, what's a chemtrail? It's a chemical trail. Well, some people say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, but it's, planes normally leave a contrail. Well, what's a contrail? Okay, well, let's talk about some of those things. And look, I'd like to know if you've seen what you think are chemical trails in the sky all the time at your place. Hey, I'd like to know. Hey, yeah, I'm in Louisiana. I see the chemtrails, or just put Louisiana chemtrails, right? Give me an idea where you're at, because I've often had people ask me, hey, Alan, you said you've been all over Costa Rica, 25 different locations and houses. Are there chemtrails in Costa Rica? And I had to think about that. And, looking back on it, I have almost never, ever, ever looked in the sky and seen those same airplane trails that I saw as a kid. And I was like, that's curious. Why is that? Okay. So, makes you wonder what's really going on. So, hey, did a little bit of research for you. Okay. So I don't know whether you believe in chemtrails, contrails, but hey, I asked ChatGPT. That's right, I'm using AI. Hey, give me the difference between contrails or contrails and chemtrails. Okay, well, here's what ChatGPT says. Okay, contrails says here that contrails are condensation trails, thin clouds made of ice crystals that form behind jet engines at high altitudes. Hey, they happen naturally when hot exhaust meets cold, humid air. Water vapors condenses, freeze, leaves a white streak that usually fades. Listen to this, this is important. Usually fades within minutes, though some can linger a little longer in the air if it's a sport, especially moist. Okay, that's a contrail. When I was a little boy, I remember seeing some planes and they left a long. Did I say long? Yeah, left a long trail. And I've seen other planes that left a little trail. And I often wondered, what's the difference? Well, according to ChatGPT, a contrail, that happens naturally. And that little old trail, I mean, come on, folks, if you did anything in math, or science, anytime, and if you look at the weather, anytime you have hot air, cold air, and they clash, that's where you get a storm, okay? So if something happens. Well, ChatGPT says, here's what a chemtrail is, okay? So what does AI say about chemical trails? Chemical trails, on the other hand, are conspiracy theories, or a conspiracy theory interpretation of those same trails. The claim is that the governments or corporations deliberately spray chemicals or biological agents into the atmosphere for a secret purpose. Things like, weather control, mind control, population reduction. However, there's no verifiable scientific evidence supporting that. Every study that's examined chemtrail claims has found the trail's composition consistent with ordinary contrails and atmospheric conditions. All right. After this video, maybe you can decide, and I'm not here to make you believe one way or the other, but to tell you what I personally have seen and witnessed, and what some others have seen and witnessed. Okay, so hey, I've been, you folks know that I live in one of the most remote places in Costa Rica, okay? So, I am a couple of hours up the mountains. If I need a loaf of bread, I got to drive 2 hours to the closest store to get it, right? So I'm very remote, and I love that. Well, hey, as I began in the beginning of this whole thing, the biggest reason so many people love Costa Rica is because it's got clean air, the clean environment, the eco-green stuff, all that's why I came here. I love that consistent weather. However, I've been coming here for 12 years at this location, been living at this spot for 4 years, okay? So for the 12 years, I'm coming in and out all the time throughout the year. It's so remote, and it's down south in the middle of the country. Almost never, I said almost never did we ever see any planes going across the sky. Almost never. You just don't see planes. You never even hardly hear planes. Once in a blue moon, I'd see a plane way up there, and every once in a while you might hear something. But that rarely ever happens. Rarely. However, in the last 6 months, okay, maybe longer, but, I've been observing that here lately, as I've been paying closer and closer attention, almost every single day, my wife and I hear planes going by. And she was like, hey, you hear that plane? And what's crazy is more often at night do we hear the planes going by. We're not anywhere near an airport, and there's never been planes flying over us, and never low enough that we could actually hear the planes, okay? And my wife has actually been hanging clothes up on the line and said, hey, come look, Alan, look. And look into the sky and see what I saw as a kid. These long trails behind a plane that a lot of people call chemical trails. Okay, now, What's actually going on, I don't know. But hey, since I've been seeing this, I did some research in the last couple of months, and I've actually watched two movies that came out years ago. One movie was called "What in the World Are They Spraying?" What in the world are they spraying? I'm going to try to remember after this is over to go and put the title, and if I have a link, put a link to that movie. It's an old movie. And I had to really do some search because I had a friend tell me about it. So I think the title is "What in the World Are They Spraying?" And then a couple of years later, they came out with another one. Why in the world are they spraying? And the whole topic of this were, people who started doing research and investigative reporting. And their whole thing is that, companies, whether it's the government, personal people, companies are putting a lot of stuff that the planes are spraying out there, and they're spraying chemical, a lot of aluminum and stuff. And look, government officials actually talking about this, them asking government officials, saying that, yeah, they're putting this aluminum in there to help stop the world getting colder and colder and colder. All of this theory that the world is getting colder, okay? And so it's supposed to help reflect the sunlight and a lot of other crazy things, okay? But they did a lot of search, a lot of tests, and, people like one example, a girl in Hawaii who always had an organic farm. Well, she had it for years and years and years. Well, all of a sudden, her organic farm, her soil wasn't growing right, and she had noticed how all of these planes and chemtrails were coming by, and they did some tests and found out how all these chemicals that the planes are supposedly spraying raise the level of aluminum and different stuff in the soil way, way more than it normally would be. So she decided to cover this area with plastic, and so that all of this stuff wouldn't get in there. And I don't know, she did something to her soil, and then she started growing good stuff again. Now, is there any truth to it? I don't know. I'm just kind of telling you what I found out, okay? Just to kind of give you an idea, because here's the truth of the matter. For me, I've never had planes flying over my area. So what does that mean? But if planes never flew over my area, and now there's planes flying over my area to where I hear them every day or every night, something has changed. Okay. Now, what I can tell you is that in the last 2 or 3 years, Costa Rica's weather has changed. I remember coming to Costa Rica and I could set my clock, and like I said, I've been all over the place. Keep in mind, you do have eco environments, microclimates, but, I could almost set my clock on during the wintertime, during the rainy season. Boy, look, you can have a beautiful, beautiful sunshiny day. To stop before dark, the stars have come out. You're going to wake up to a beautiful day. I want to say that the first 9 to 10 years, that's the way it was. Well, in the last couple of years, the weather was just really crazy. Last summer, we got more rain than usual, and, so anyway, I've noticed some things change. Is it because of the planes I'm hearing and seeing? I really don't know. But, I'm here to kind of give you my perspective on what I've been seeing while being here in Costa Rica. So, hey, let me just go through a couple of questions here because, Mary Jo says, hey, are they spraying to kill mosquitoes? I've never seen them spraying to kill mosquitoes, and they definitely wouldn't be spraying to kill mosquitoes by plane, okay? And Costa Rica just doesn't have a serious mosquito problem, with the exception of on the coast, if you got a lot of shrubbery and stuff. I live up here in the mountains, and I got the jungle right behind me, and I seldom ever have problems with any mosquitoes. So I don't think it's that, okay? Now, of course, I don't live near an airport, but Esquire's like, hey, we're just off the approach vector in San Jose Airport. So there's plenty of planes around there. And yes, if you live anywhere around San Jose, you probably do see lots of planes. So here's a question for you, Esquire. Have you ever seen any of the long chemtrails that people call chemtrails coming from the planes that you see taking off at the airport, or do you just see the normal contrail, right? I'd be curious to know. So anyway, of course, now Mary asked, people living in Costa Rica, is there a dengue outbreak happening? I read that dengue has infections have been on the rise. Hey, I haven't heard any. That doesn't mean there's not. If there is a dengue outbreak, it usually happens on the Lemoyne or Caribbean side. I know when I was over there many years ago, there was a big mosquito breakout there, and I ended up getting something called papillomaria, and there was always dengue big over there. But hey, as far as recently, I haven't heard. Okay. All right. So here's probably a good thought right here. I passed it up. Where was it at? Someone mentioned real quick here. Well, here it is. What UFOs in Costa Rica? Hey, we can talk about that on another topic. I think I've seen some UFOs where I live at, and who knows? Maybe I'm an alien. Anyway, back to the contrails and chemtrails. So, hey, let's talk about how Costa Rica, a lot of people come here because they've heard how eco-green Costa Rica is. And look, Costa Rica is proud, and I see it all the time. Costa Rica generates, I think, 99% of all their energy, which means through water, through solar panels, through different methods other than gas, they generate all their energy. So the majority of their electricity is all naturally generated, 99% of it. And that's a good thing, okay? So Costa Rica really is really big on promoting being eco-green, 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 eco-green. And while I do believe it is much greener than a lot of places, well, the truth is that, hey, there's a lot of places that's not eco-green. There's a lot of things that's not eco-green. For example, the sewer systems. The sewer systems are nowhere near eco-green. The majority of the gray water in Costa Rica runs right on down to the river you're probably swimming in, or your kids are swimming in. But hey, for the most part, it is. But here's, in my opinion, Costa Rica is eco-green because they have marketed Costa Rica very, very well. They have marketed how Costa Rica is eco-green, and they advertise and advertise and advertise. And I'm an online marketer. I understand marketing. So just because someone says that they are the best school, we're the best university, doesn't mean they're the best, but nobody advertises we're the second best university in the United States. No one does that. Everyone always markets that they're the best, the best, the best. We've got the best schools. We got the best this. We got the best that. But marketing is marketing. It's a way to attract you. Matter of fact, the majority of YouTube channels that talk about Costa Rica are marketing to you. I'll help you move to Costa Rica because I'm the best. I do this. I do that. And they only tell you what they want you to hear so that you will buy more of their product and services. Hey, I don't do that. I don't sell any services. So I love telling you the cold, hard truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I love being in Costa Rica. Been here for over 12 years. I love it. Okay. But there's some things I don't like, but that's true anywhere you go. So, so keep in mind, Esquire came back and gave me an answer and said, hasn't seen any chemtrails there. Planes on the approach, so they're at lower altitudes, and U.S. private pilots. So that's interesting, right? You didn't see any chemtrails. Well, if you don't see chemtrails, they're probably contrails, right? So that's interesting. Those planes aren't coming from Costa Rica, or are there other planes that are leaving out late at night and leaving chemtrails? Because I've actually seen them in this area, which we normally never see. But the question is, why? Why would there be planes in this area? I really don't have the answer to that. But hey, maybe some of you guys have a theory. So anyway, Costa Rica really has done a great job marketing how eco-green that they are. Now, here's the question. Costa Rica got to be very, very expensive, and everybody knows that Costa Rica is the most expensive Latin America country? Well, that's true. That's a fact. What did Costa Rica do? Advertising, marketing to offset how expensive everything is in Costa Rica. Well, Costa Rica started marketing that Costa Rica is the Switzerland of Latin America. Is that supposed to be a good thing? Or you're just saying that, hey, everything is expensive in Costa Rica because we're the Switzerland of Latin America. Hey, Switzerland's expensive, but Switzerland's got some nice stuff, okay, and quality stuff. I can't say that about Costa Rica, but marketing, hey, marketing's a good thing if you know how to use it right. I could sell chocolate-covered dog turds with my marketing skills. But that doesn't mean it's right for me to do that, okay? And I don't do that, okay? So anyway, it's important for you to kind of get an idea. So Costa Rica, hey, it advertises it's a Switzerland of Latin America. That's because it's expensive. It does advertise it's eco-green because it knows lots of people want to come for that good clean air, clean earth, right? So anyway, that kind of just gives you that idea. And so are there some possible environmental and health concerns if there's really chemtrails? Well, from the research I've been doing and the movies I'm watching, these were documentaries where they actually went, talked to government officials, did all their research. Looks like to me, yes, there are some problems. But is it, like for me, am I concerned? Well, I'm not really concerned because I don't see that much happening in Costa Rica. And where I'm planting my organic garden, well, I'm going to have it covered in plastic so that if there's any truth to the chemtrails, you're spraying out chemicals and spraying out all of this stuff, well, if there's any truth to it, well, then mine will be protected and I can take care of my dirt and I can make sure that, I have my stuff will grow. I love having organic, chemical-free, pesticide-free vegetables that I can enjoy in every meal, okay? And that's my goal here. So there are things that, hey, I think there are some actual health concerns and that it's worth looking into. I don't know the truth to it. I'm not saying one way or the other, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but is it worth looking into? Absolutely, it's worth looking into. And it's worth maybe taking some practical steps to be aware, how much trouble is it to actually, and like I said, I'm gonna try to put the link in the description in the two movies, what in the world are they spraying and why in the world are they spraying? But hey, you can Google it and then you can find those videos. And hey, it was very interesting to watch. So anyway, I thought those documentaries were done really, really well. Now, Eduardo comes back with, hey, Costa Rica's not expensive. Okay, and so there is some truth to what he's saying. He says Costa Rica is not expensive, is that you say they take you to, expensive restaurants, hotels, automercado, and not expensive places, lies to make money from you. So, so let me summarize what he's saying. Eduardo is saying, if you want to live like a Tico, absolutely Costa Rica is not expensive. If you come down here from America and you want to live your American lifestyle with your American peanut butter, your American steaks every day, yeah, Costa Rica is going to be extremely, extremely expensive. Easily, and I've said this before, you can easily live on $1,000 a month. Matter of fact, the majority of Ticos that live in Costa Rica live on under $1,000 a month. And look, where I live at, of course, extremely remote. I have very few neighbors, but the neighbors that I have, they're living on probably under $200, $300 a month. They grow their own food. They don't have any electricity, other than maybe a couple of them have one solar panel, or some of them might have a Pelton or, aquatic, so they have enough lights, but not enough refrigerator or anything. So you can live very, very cheaply. You can easily live on $1,000 a month. Would it be fun? Well, it depends on what you call fun, right? I know I've done it. I lived on under $1,000 a month. And so it's really just completely up to you. Now, you can live comfortably in Costa Rica on $2,000, $2,500 a month, and that's without having to pinch pennies every time you turn around. But keep in mind, I like to eat. I like to eat healthy. And so if I have to buy my own healthy produce and food and stuff, it can get to be quite expensive. So JR puts in his 2 cents and says, Costa Rica is nowhere close to eco-friendly. They use so many harsh chemicals in construction. And look, not only that, and so there is some truth to what JR is saying. While there's a ton of marketing about it being eco-friendly, okay, I bet you didn't know that when you look at per capita and when you look at all the chemicals that they use when it comes time to plant, like, for example, in Buenos Aires, they have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of acres of pineapples. Del Monte is king in the Buenos Aires area in the southern region of Costa Rica. Well, I've actually talked to some of the head officials over there, and of course, they're trained to tell you, hey, we try not to use chemicals, but the reality is we have to in order for production and stuff. And so, where you'll have a lot of chemicals that are banned in the United States, well, they're not banned in Costa Rica. And so, I've got a neighbor that that's way down the road here, kilometer or 2 away. Anyway, he plants gardens all the time. He's got some of the most beautiful tomatoes and bell peppers, but he's always planting GMO seeds, and those things are meant to grow fast and grow without bugs and I mean, like clockwork. When he's got his garden going, every Tuesday he's spraying one kind of chemical to kill bugs. The other Thursday he's spraying a chemical for fertilizer or something or another. I mean, that dude is spraying chemical. I wouldn't eat anything from his garden, but he's constantly spraying stuff. So yeah, JR is absolutely right. Because I've seen it, whether it's construction, gardens, Costa Rica does use a lot of harsh chemicals. And so I'm kind of scanning through some of the comments here and answering some of your questions. So, hey, you give me, I'd like to hear your opinion. Hey, are you someone that believes in chemtrails? If you believe in chemtrails, put a 10. Well, if you're like, there's no such thing as chemtrails, put a 1 in the chat box. I'd like to just kind of get an idea, a survey. How many people here? We got 21 people that's on the live right now, and I greatly appreciate all of you. And I greatly appreciate if you'll hit that like button, okay? Because, hey, I enjoy giving you this free information, and it's a great way to support the channel. So I'm going to scan through here. So now, if I haven't answered your question, hey, please be sure to put it in the chat box. So William says, hey, I feel like they cloud seed for sure, okay? And, I think there's something to it. He says that if you cover crops with plastic, the chemicals are still in the water. And, I think there's a lot of truth to that, William. If I were to cover my plants in plastic. However, I get my water from an artesian well, and it's coming out of the ground. So mine, like if I water my plants are going to get water that comes directly filtered from the earth. And, that stuff is deep underground. I probably should test my water to see what's in my water. But I really think that my water would be very, very clean. I think Costa Rica is one of the few places, I don't know, I haven't checked all over, but I think it's easy to live an organic life in Costa Rica if that's what you want to do. Hey, Doug puts in his 2 cents. Good to see you there, Double Dog. Doug says, yeah, talking about tomatoes, I can't find any that actually ripen. Any store that I look for tomatoes, they're red, but always hard as potatoes, never soft. And I agree, you get a lot of that. And, it really is. It's tough to find, I get scared just going by produce in Costa Rica. And a lot of people say they're coming to Costa Rica to buy organic produce, not realizing that sometimes the produce in Costa Rica is worse than what you might find in the States. But that's just my thought. El Patron says he believes a 10. Stratospheric aerosol injection is a fact, and the government has admitted it. But ChatGPT is not admitting it. Anyway, he adds it's a form of geoengineering, and so so if you're not like real familiar with chemtrails, here's a question, or here's an example. Let's say that you have 2 farms out there, or let's say 5 farms out there, and let's say that one farm is trying to grow all organic stuff, but yet there's chemical trails and planes that are out there, and they're spraying all of these chemicals. Well, if let's say 3 out of those 5 farms are buying seeds from Monsanto's or GMO seeds, well, their crop is growing without any problem because those seeds are modified to grow with that chemical that they're spraying. So the other 2 farms that are not buying GMO seeds, right, and they're planting regular seeds, well, those seeds aren't growing because there's too much chemical or too much crap, too much poison in the soil. So what that does is it kills out those 2 farmers, and they have to sell out because they didn't make any money. Okay, and so what happens, since they didn't make any money, that opens it up for other farmers to buy who are buying GMO seeds. So that's just one way or one scenario in how chemtrails are being or can be used to affect the climate, right? As some people say that those chemical trails are being, they're seeding the clouds so that it causes it to rain when it's not supposed to rain. For example, why did we get so much snow in South Florida, right? It never snows that much. Why did Louisiana last year get, humongous snow? It never gets that kind of snow. And some people are saying, I'm not saying, some people are saying that that's because of chemtrails, because of the planes, that are manipulating the weather. And then it goes back to, okay, who is manipulating the weather? Is it government, or is it the ultra rich people, right, who have so much money that they can put poison out there, cause a flood, cause a snowstorm in Florida that's going to kill all of those oranges, so that his oranges in another part of the country now gets to sell 100% because there's an orange shortage from what's been growing in Florida. I don't know. I'm just giving you some different scenarios, something for you to think about. So, the reality is, you can't live your life with your head stuck in the sand, but at the same time, you can't live your life, saying, oh, it's this, and it's the government, and it's that. And what I like to do is I like to be aware. I like to observe. I like to find out what's going on. I like to do my own due diligence, do some research so that you're aware, and then you can take the necessary precautions. And of course, Eduardo says, Ticos, most of the locals don't even know that Monsanto is killing Costa Rica, and some people don't even care. And look, the reality is, and this is just my opinion, in Costa Rica, the majority of that population is very, very poor when you compare what they make compared to other countries like the United States, Canada, and other places. Okay, they're very poor. So, and so they're going to buy whatever is available. Okay, and they're going to buy the cheapest thing that's available. So the reality is that the majority of the Costa Ricans, they're not trying to eat healthy. Okay, so what does that mean? And I can prove that because, I'm a health nut. I go to the grocery store, and in the United States, if I want to buy a 20-pound bag of brown rice, raw brown rice, I can. In Costa Rica, I go into the store, and I'm lucky if I can find one small, but I have never found, and I think it's a, what is it? Not a liter, it's a, anyway, one small bag. It's only about 2 pounds of brown rice. So I end up having to buy 10 or 15 bags of brown rice. Now I can go into the store and I can buy that plain stripped down version of white rice in a 20-pound bag, 30-pound bag, all over the place. And it's cheap. Well, you tell me, if Costa Ricans don't have a whole lot of money, are they going to buy the 2-pound bag of brown rice that's expensive, or they're going to buy the 20-pound bag of white rice that has 0 nutrients in it and is only a filler, right? Well, they're going to buy the cheap stuff. And that's just like when it comes to buying butter. Well, butter is crazy, crazy high. So, you try buying 1 stick of butter, I think it's 2,000 colones, $4 or $5, right? So what are they going to buy? They're going to buy Parquet. Can't believe it's not butter. They're going to buy margarine, okay? And, when they're cooking stuff, they all cook in oil like everybody, right? And they're going to buy the cheapest oil possible. So, whenever we cook in oil, I buy extra virgin olive oil, right? Coconut oil, depending on what I'm cooking. So, it's hard to, it's very expensive to live healthy in Costa Rica because, hey, I get ready to buy a jug of extra virgin olive oil, I'm going to spend a lot of money. So, those are just Costa Ricans, as Eduardo say, I don't think they really care, and it's not a lot of health conscious ticos out there, in my opinion, for the most part. I'm sure you have some people that are health conscious. Rick shares that in Illinois, the crop dusters are all over in the summer, and that makes me a little scared for my own health. They fly over my house a lot in the summer. And, you have a valid reason for being scared. I mean, you're sitting there and you are breathing in tons and tons of chemicals that's not meant for you. It's meant for those crops out there. It's meant for killing bugs, okay? Which brings up that, I've seen, I don't know how many ticos that's out there spraying with, they got this pack and they're spraying all these chemicals. Most of them, they're not wearing a mask and they're spraying all kind of stuff and to kill bugs and poison. And so, hey, is it because they're uneducated, ignorant, don't know how bad it is? I don't know. But doggone it, boy, every time I pass by someone spraying, I'm like real careful. I'm holding my breath. And, Eduardo brings up a point and says, hey, looking for a good farmer's market is really, really important. He says he only buys from the same place, even meats, and everything looks good around. And, there are, like, for example, in the Rivas area, they have an actual farmer's market that they call organic. Is it all truly organic? I doubt it. But I was living in Rivas, and my neighbor there, the landlord, had an organic farm. And, I watched him. I was there every day, of course, and I saw his gardens. And it did look like, I never saw him spraying any chemicals, and I saw him put different stuff up there that attracted the bugs away from his stuff. So you can find some of those gardeners that care about the produce. And so you can find those. But, hey, you definitely have to look around. So, hey, so anyway, if I haven't answered your question, put it in the chat box. I really don't have a whole lot more for you. But, hey, for you guys that are here and you wondered where I've been the last couple of weeks, if you didn't catch those posts or anything, this property that I live on, I live on 1,000 acres, not my 1,000 acres, but I've leased this property where I'm at. And the owner, he's old, he's 80 years old. And, hey, there's 2 things you can't avoid, and that's taxes and death. And he's getting old. Oh, no, he ain't getting old. He's been old for a long time. And for his age, he's normally pretty healthy, but now his body is beginning to shut down. And so I've been spending the majority of my day helping my neighbor because he doesn't have any family here. He doesn't have anybody that cares about him. And so anyway, I've not done any lives because I have actually been helping my neighbor a whole lot. I get up early in the morning, go up there, tend to him, help him bathe, help him put his clothes, all that good stuff, get him all set up. And so anyway, it is quite a challenge for me, but that's all right. I've kind of put stuff on hold. And the reality is that that's the agreement we made. The guy had a bad heart attack, and the locals were trying to steal his property. And I discovered it and showed it to him. And so we made a deal. He asked me to come out here, live on his property for free. And in turn, my job was to make sure that I protected his properties, make sure the locals don't steal his property. And then when it comes time to die, well, take care of his property and make sure his son inherits the property. So I'm actually doing what I agreed to do 5 years ago before I came to this property. So that's why, so I don't even know if I'll have a live next Sunday. It's always my intent. And of course, I think next Sunday I'm going to take a look at the calendar. I think next Sunday, let me take a quick look. Today is the 26th. Yeah, next Sunday is the 2nd, which means, the first Sunday of every month is Q&A. That just simply means you can ask those questions, anything you want on any topic, and I can give you answers if I know the answer. I'll give you the answers. And hey, if I don't know the answer, sometimes people on the live have the answers for you. So anyway, next week, that's what, if we have a live, we're going to be doing Q&A. We'll have our normal live chat. I love what Doug puts in here. And Doug says, hey, organic just means they use less pesticides and herbicides at the beginning stages and then before picking. It's a scam. And, I have to agree with you in part because, I know I'm doing organic farming, which means everything that I put in there, I'm using all natural stuff to protect my bugs and stuff. I think there's probably some people do that, but it's very, very hard to sell, to grow enough organic stuff to actually sell it to other people. So you get a lot of stuff that's supposedly organic. A lot of times it's only marketing. They put a label on it saying it's organic, and then they up the price so that you spend more money for something you thought was organic. So there's truth in what Doug says. But anyway, hey folks, I think that's about it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed today's information on chemical trails. I do know that something different is happening because every time I turn around, at least once a day, sometimes more, we hear planes flying over, but it's most of the time after it gets dark. And so my thought is, since there's so many at nighttime, I'm thinking that's when they're spraying the chemtrails. I have seen them during the day, but I've only seen that a few times. So anyway, but I've had people ask me about that. And well, if you ask, I try to research and give you answers. So folks, that's all I got for you today. I hope I get to see you next Sunday. And if so, hey, be sure to bring your questions about life in Costa Rica. If you want the answers, I hope I can give them to you because I've been around and I'm not scared to give you the whole truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, folks, have a great one. I'll see you next time.